Obviously, that was the hardest thing in many respects, because there was no shortage of heroic acts during both World Wars. I think what we wanted to do was to have stories that we knew that would all fit together, stories that would flow, that you could cover all three, as I say, armed services, and portray each one in a balanced light. I think we've managed to do that. You know, Chavez is a very famous story, double VC winner, one of only 3 VC winners. But, you know, Royal Army Medical Corps, you know, so not your typical soldier. And so that's was a great interest to me. And we have no idea how many lives he saved, because, you know, he implemented serums, you know, inoculations that people hadn't even thought about doing in battle, on battlefields at that time. You know, he identified the fact that trench warfare was an exposure to the cold. You know, it wasn't a frostbite. He saved so many lives that we'll never know about. Clearly, a lot of them suffering from traumatic stress. They were, some of them, concerned about the bloodlust that they were feeling, in terms of, it's a very natural psychological aspect of a human being's psyche when they're involved in a war. You know, your colleagues get killed, you fight back, and you know, you build up a bloodlust inside you. But these are things that these guys were not allowed to discuss at this point. The whole idea of PTS hadn't even been considered. So hopefully in the books as well, through their letters, we sort of explain that these guys are, you know, incredibly damaged human beings. I mean, you know, it's very hard in this day and age to actually put yourself or begin to understand the conditions that these guys were fighting in.
And how do you think these stories compare to modern day heroes fighting in Afghanistan? You must have met a few during your time there.
Seen lots of heroic acts while I've been out in Afghan. That, you know, the ability for a human being to be brave is not something that I'm unfamiliar with. I think what was different maybe slightly about this, and this is taking nothing away from what's going on nowadays, is that these were exemplary times. These were world wars, and you know by the statistics, the amount of people that lost their lives in these world wars, that most of the people here knew they were probably not going to make it through to the end of the war, by the nature of the job that they did, and often then by the nature of the jobs that they'd volunteered to do. They went voluntarily into situations they knew they would probably not survive.
Is there any one particular story that stands out for you?
It's difficult to say that. It would be like saying, you know, of the 15 mates that are in your rugby team, who's your best mate? Yeah, you know, they're all for me in their own right. They all stand out. They're all outstanding human beings. And, you know, if it's a successful book, there's no shortage of getting to volume 2050, because there is such a wealth of you know, there was such a wealth of outstanding human beings that existed at that time, and who were incredibly selfless.
And you're a patron for Help for Heroes. What more do you think we should be doing to help our armed forces and indeed veterans?
We have a massive problem with PTS in this country. Something that, you know, we're talking about cutbacks presently. We have no idea how disturbed some of our young men, again, women, are going to be after what they've experienced out there. And, you know, people forget too quickly, I think, in any society, but also in ours. And I do worry for the future of how we're going to be, how our young men are going to be, and women are going to be looked after.